So I've been doing some videos recently where I've been comparing the Tonex One to the Nano Cortex in terms of how the amps sound or how the effects sound. But one of the things I wanted to try out was, can I use the Tonex One to maybe compensate for some of the things on the Nano Cortex that I feel are missing? And two of the biggest ones are, one, the ability to run multiple captures, so to be able to run like a drive pedal in front of an amp, and two, a compressor. And ironically, those are two things that Tonex One does pretty well. So what I want to do today was test out using the Tonex One to mimic drive pedals and hear how that sounds kind of going into the Nano Cortex. Now, I'll also say that you can use the Tonex One this way in front of a regular amp or in front of any other kind of modeler, in front of another Tonex One. This isn't specific to the Nano Cortex, it's just how I'm using it today. I think this could be a pretty powerful thing if, say, you wanted to add a very versatile pedal to your pedal board in front of a regular amp. The Tonex One can mimic really any drive pedal you can find a tone model for. And there's a lot of them out there, which we'll see. So if you want kind of a chameleon of a drive pedal, instead of spending, $200 on something that does a bunch of different types of drive pedals or buying multiple drive pedals, you could buy a Tonex One for $180 and you can run tone models of Klons or Tube Screamers or whatever else you can find. So I think it can be pretty powerful in that way. So let's go ahead and test it out. So I've got a few things here. One is the tone model pack that I bought for all of the Dumble stuff actually comes with two different drive pedals. It's got a Klon Centaur and an Ibanez Tune Screamer. They're adding some of these vintage pedals in with the vintage amps. So I figured let's play around with some of those, and then I did some searches on the ToneNet for some other kind of boutique kind of drive pedals just to check those out. But let's look at what I'm doing here with the drive pedals that came with the Dumble pack. So one of the things I want to do is kind of use the Tonex One to just be a compressor. And what I've done here is I've created a preset here. It's using the tone metal for the Klon Centaur, but you can see here, I've got it off. I'm not using it. All I've got on is a compressor. And so really what I've done here is I've created a preset that's just doing kind of a compressed boost in front of the amp. And we'll hear that in a second. But so in this way, the Tonex One, in addition to being all these drive pedals, can be all these different effects, and you can combine them together. So you could have a whole set of effects in front of an amp or in front of another Tonex or in front of the Nano Cortex, and you could be running all these kinds of effects if you wanted to. You could run a delay, you could run a modulation, all in front of the amp. So again, it allows the Tonex One to be combined with a lot of different things and be very versatile, kind of a chameleon of a pedal, so to speak. But this preset, I've just got a compressor on, and we'll hear how that sounds. I've also got a preset here where I'm compressing in front of the Klon. I've just got one that's just the Klon. And you can see I'm tweaking the settings here a little bit. Now, it's important to remember the settings for the tone model aren't exactly the same as tweaking the settings on the gain pedal. They're going to be slightly different. This is a kind of moment in time capture, so to speak, of the tone of the pedal. And the tone model lets you tweak things a little bit, but it's not like moving the knobs on the pedal. I think we'll really see that with the Tube Screamer. I've got a preset here where I'm trying to kind of do the setup you would do on a Tube Screamer to run into a dirty amp to kind of tighten up the bass. A lot of kind of metal players do this, and we'll see how it sounds. And then I've also just got a Tube Screamer with just kind of the regular settings. And the other thing I did is I went over to the ToneNet and I just said, hey, I want to look for guitar pedals. And you can see there's 6,300 results. So you have all of these types of pedals that you could check out, and you could pull these into your rig in any way you see fit. You can even look for different things like, I just want more EQ things, or I want treble booster or something like that, or I want a fuzz. There's all these different capabilities. So keep that in mind too with the Tonex One. It can kind of be this chameleon of a drive pedal, and you could pull all these things in. You don't have to use it as an amp on, which maybe that's just something that you know, I come to it with a bias because I'm such a user of the Quad Cortex and it's my whole rig. The first thing I want to check out is the amps. But this is a pedal for $180, like I said, that you could add to your pedal board, and it could be a chameleon of all these different things. And I think it could be really powerful. But let's go ahead and switch over to my Tonex, and we will check this out. So right now I'm going to run in Stomp mode. So if you're not aware, on the Tonex One, you can either run in dual mode, which means when you press the foot switch, you're switching between two different presets, or you run in Stomp mode, where when you press the foot switch, it just turns the preset on or off. So I'm going to run Stomp mode, and we're going to try all these different kinds of presets. So the one I have right now is that comp boost. So this is nothing but a compressor in front of the amp. So right now it's off. And as you can see, I've got a few presets set up on my Nano Cortex to test out with. This one is using a capture from Amalgam that's a 2-rock. And it's just a clean one. It sounds like this. You can hear it's not 100% clean. You dig in, you can get a little bit of grit, but I think it's a great capture to use with a dry pedal in front of it. I also have a Tone King Imperial clean. This is a little bit more of a pure clean, more of a Fendery kind of clean. I've got kind of my standard rhythm tone. And I use this one a lot to stack overdrives in front of it to create lead tone, so we'll check this one out. And then I've got actually one I captured from the Tonex, which is a Bad Cat kind of crunch tone. And we'll use this one as well, maybe. But let's start with the Amalgam 2-rock. And let's go ahead and engage the boost here, and we'll hear how it sounds. So again, here's it without the boost. And here's with the compressed boost in front of it. Yeah, let me go to the 4 position on the Strat. Here, let me turn it off. So you can hear it. We're getting a volume boost, which is pushing the capture a little bit, maybe getting a little more grit. And then it is getting a little bit of compression in there. So if we switch over to the Tone King, here it is without it. And here's with the boost. So the Tonex can really be a nice kind of rhythm boost. Let's go ahead and go to the crunchy tone. Here's without the compressor. You can hear it's kind of filling in. It's losing a little bit of the definition and it's sounding a little fuller. So I think that works really well. Let's go back to the 2-rock and let's switch up to, let's put in the compressed Klon drive. So again, this is, you know, the clean, and here's with the Klon drive. So this has got the compressor and the actual Klon drive on it. If we go over to what the preset looks like, you can see it's got a compressor, not tons of compression, but a little bit. And then we've got the Klon going. And I'm pushing the gain a little bit, I'm pushing the volume a little bit, I'm pulling back the presence just to warm it up. So a nice kind of compressed, warm overdrive sound here. the touch sensitivity is really nice. If we go to just the pure Klon, so this is without the compressor. And it's also has a little more treble to it. So I think it's as good as any Klon clone you're going to get. So let's check out the tube screamer. So here's kind of the pure, just straight ahead, everything at 12 o'clock. And all that drive is coming from the tube screamer tone model on the Tonex. Again, here's without. And then here's the green boost. So this is where, if we go look at the actual preset, this is where I'm pulling the gain back, I'm pushing the presence. So I'm trying to use it, again, like you would use in front of a dirty amp to kind of tighten up the low end. Let's hear how that works. So let's go back over here. I'm going to switch to the Bad Cat. So here it is without. Here it is with. So I think it is doing a little bit of that tightening up the bottom end, but it's not going to do it as well as you would get from a real tube screamer, at least in the way that this tone model was created. I'm sure there's probably tone models out there that were EQ'd when the model was created to do more of that pure kind of tighten up the low end for a high gain amp kind of thing. Let's switch over to the Bad Cat. But I think it can kind of work. Let's go ahead and check out some of the other drive pedals that I just kind of downloaded. So here's a Benson preamp. You can hear that's got a lot more top end to it. I think the Benson preamp's like a germanium preamp. Let's try it in front of a crunchy tone. So that's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and move to driver. Go back to the clean. And here this has got a good amount of crunch to it. Again, that's all from the pedal. If we use that in front of a rhythm tone. It's a nice kind of big fat driven tone. And we try the King of Tone. And so this is the OD side of the King of Tone. So some nice overdriven tones you can get here. Let's try this ZenDrive. Go back to the clean amp. Pretty nice. What else we got? Let's try this touch of Zen. Go ahead and put that back on the 2-rock. Let's turn it off. So this is kind of a nice boost. So there's obviously tons of different options that we could check out. You know, as we saw, there's something like 6,000 options out there of different kinds of dry pedals that you could download. So I guess for me, it's interesting just to combine the two together and get this real flexibility of being able to use the compression and another drive pedal in front of the Nano Cortex. And you know, for not much money, you know, $180 for the Tonex One, suddenly you've got this world of new capabilities that you can combine with the Nano Cortex. Or I think it'd be real powerful, you could just kind of buy 2 Tonex Ones, run one as kind of a drive effects in front of the other one that could be kind of your amp. And then you could have all these kind of combinations you could do without, obviously you can create tone models that could be combinations of pedals and amps and things like that. But I find that you lose a lot of flexibility that way. I like to be able to pick the combinations that I run. So I think just overall, it's kind of a fun combination to put these two things together and find what works. You know, the other thing that you can do is, if we're running in dual mode, we could take, for instance, we could take the compression boost, put it on one side, keep that kind of as an always on kind of thing, and then maybe add in a, maybe that Klon drive or something as the other side. So you could run in this mode, and then all the amps, you always get a little bit of boost from the compressor. And then when you want to kick it in, you could switch to the other side. So you could kind of do that as well. So I'm having a lot of fun kind of combining these together. I think for me, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities that gets me closer to kind of what the Quad Cortex can do, honestly, for a lot less money. So I hope you found this interesting, and as always, thanks for watching.